And as our great friend William White said many years ago to a young Kay Millie, Kevin, you got to have the ability to take direction. And that's what we're talking about here. The Stop Socialism Express continues. Kevin Miller in the morning here, taking your calls about the issues that matter to you. Our great president, Donald Trump, in rare form last night, telling the libs, telling the Dems, telling America and the world that we will not bow to socialism. You'll hear from the president coming up. Can't wait to hear from the commander-in-chief. But joining us now from Washington, D.C., Philip Hardy. You might remember Phil. He used to live here before he left us for Washington, D.C., and forgot all about us here in the Treasure Valley. We never see him anymore. Sorry, that's my Catholic guilt. It's how I show my affection. In all seriousness, Phil is a lobbyist, a strategist for Strategies 360 here in Boise and in Washington, D.C., and he so graciously joined us this morning. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
And that isn't true. You come back here about as much as possible. Isn't that right?
I try to get back there every 2 or 3 weeks. It's hard to get it out of your system. Once you're embedded in with the mountain people, you want to stay one of them.
We love the mountain people, and I guess you could be our honorary East Coast correspondent for the mountain people.
I would be happy to do so, sir.
So literally, Phil works like 2 blocks from Capitol Hill, the Capitol Hill. So he's always plugged in, talking to the bigwigs. In fact, not that I don't have anything else to do, but I follow Phil on social media, and this is the access of power that he has. Phil was flying back. He's sitting next to Senator Orrin Hatch. That must have been a life-changing experience.
Well, it was interesting, Kevin, because it was a very early flight. So we were lined up or sat down outside the gate around, 5:45 in the morning, and you don't really look around very often. And it started there. People would come by, this older gentleman who I noticed sit down, but I didn't take a close look, thanking him for his service. And I'm like, Orrin Hatch, and get on the plane, and you're next to him. And it's just sort of like amazed that everyone who got on the plane practically either smiled or said hello, and all the way through to the flight to Salt Lake. And when he got off the plane, he was the very first person. And nobody from behind him tried to pass him to get off the gangway. Normally people are pushing and shoving and want to get off as quickly as possible, but everyone walked slowly as him as they exited the plane, and I was right behind him. And when we got to the exit of the gangway of the aircraft, the gateway, all of these people who were waiting to get on this flight wherever it was going next suddenly saw Orrin Hatch, and they all, broke into these huge smiles. It would be so nice, Kevin, if that's how the majority of our elected leaders were treated by people when they're in public, especially Republicans now who can't even go out to get something to eat without being literally attacked by crazy people. So it was so refreshing to see the respect that Orrin Hatch was given by virtually everyone on the plane until he got on and off the plane. It was really amazing.
That's why the West is best, right here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Phil Hardy joining us from Strategies 360. So, the government shutdown, allegedly it's been avoided. What's it been like the past few weeks in Capitol Hill?
Well, I'll tell you, most people had assumed that if there wasn't a deal last Friday to avoid the shutdown, that we were going to have a shutdown. So people were getting pretty pessimistic. You had the airlines and the air traffic control people, getting ready to start mass protests. I even saw where one of them said, Mick Mulvaney, we know where you live. We will be there protesting if this happens. And not even if it happens, but before it happens, we're going to be down there. And all of a sudden, late last night, we have some sort of potential deal that's been cut. I can't put too fine a point on it. People here were really squirrely about having another government shutdown. I'm not saying we're out of the woods yet. Everyone's looking at the content of what this deal is and whether or not it'll be good enough for President Trump. the early numbers that I'm seeing are kind of contradictory. It's nowhere near the amount of money he had requested, but it may, in fact, be near what the Border Patrol requested as far as what they personally feel they need.
Phil Hardy joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So we shall see how it plays out, and hopefully the government shutdown will be avoided. Now, you're close with the Idaho congressional delegation. You know all of them. You've worked with them for years, right?
Yes.
So your thoughts on how effective our delegation is?
Well, in talks such as these, I'm pretty sure Mike Simpson is generally, he's at the center of them. He is one of those so-called, well, he was a cardinal, a chairman of an appropriations subcommittee. He's now the ranking member because Democrats are in control of the House. But he's very close with the leadership. He's very experienced in how these deals are cut. He's not a small picture guy. He's a big picture guy, but he's in the details. So, of course, he's very, very prominent. Mike Crapo as well, also still committee chair. It's a big deal that Idaho has these kinds of seats at the table. And everyone knows by now Mike Simpson doesn't pull any punches. He calls them and he sees them. He's not been a big fan of government shutdowns, especially the last one. So I'm sure if he comes out and says this is a good deal, then it probably is a good deal.
Phil Hardy joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. But, Senator Risch, chairman of Foreign Relations. Senator Crapo, chairman of banking, is that right?
Yes, banking and housing.
All right. You've got Congressman Simpson, one of the more senior members of the House. Then you have Congressman Fulcher, person both of us know very well. Many people here rooting for him. Your thoughts on the first month of the Fulcher administration in Congress?
Well, so far they haven't had much to do as far as rank-and-file members of Congress. They haven't had all that many votes to take. He did take one controversial vote so far that he was very proud of. I think that once he gets into the committee work, it's going to be a little bit difficult for him. He's on Natural Resources, which is a great committee for someone from Idaho to be on. They're just starting their hearings, and they're going to be talking about yes and yes and yes to climate change and this Green Deal. So I think that Congressman Fulcher is going to have to hold his nose to a certain extent to get through some of that stuff that really is sort of beyond half-baked of what these proposals from the loony left, the socialists, the Ocasio-Cortez groups in Congress who really absolutely have no idea what they're talking about or how they, if they actually got their way, how they would blow up our economy and make us all live like serfs. If that's what they had the chance to do, they would do that.
Final question for you, Phil. What do you make of all the libs running for 2020? A lot of females, in fact, more females than males. And I don't even know if we're halfway there to the number of people that are going to run.
I agree with you. I don't think we are at the halfway point. You're still getting people like the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who is talking about running for president. And it's starting to look pretty much exactly like 2016 for the Republican Party, where you're going to have 16 or 18 people running for president. You're going to have a big kids table, a little kids table for debates. And you're going to have such a fragmentation of the vote that it's really becoming clearer on how you see Donald Trump's path to victory in the next election. It's really going to be a case of if a lot of these folks don't get out, there is going to be a very difficult time for certain people to make their mark, and therefore you're going to end up with either Bernie Sanders, or Kamala Harris, and these individuals aren't exactly in the mainstream of what Americans are used to. They may sound good in short bursts, but frankly, I think that this field of Democrats is doing its very best to guarantee Donald Trump a second term.
Phil Hardy, we always appreciate you. Thank you for joining us, and I always marvel at your travels out west and back east, and appreciate your friendship, and we love having you on, sir.
I'm always happy to be on with you, Kevin. Enjoy the snow.
We will. We will. Phil Hardy joining us. Phil, thank you. Have a great day. We hope to see you soon. Safe travels, sir.
Thanks, Kevin. Take care.
Thank you. Our great friend Phil Hardy, Strategies 360 right here in Idaho.
I guess he challenged us to an event, so maybe this means he's going to have to drop out of the race because this was not a good situation for him. I don't know why he did it.
We stand for America, and we stand against walls.
And you know what? Are we angry? You're damn right we're angry. Damn right we're angry.
There's no place better to talk about border security, whether they like it or not, because I've been hearing a lot of things. Oh, the wall didn't make that much of a difference. You know where it made a big difference? Right here in El Paso.
It's been one of the safest cities for 20 years counting. It's not because of walls. It's not because of militarization. It's because of organizations like BNHR who work with the community, who work with the most vulnerable in this community.
In fact, what I would do is I would say that may be the end of his presidential bid, but he did challenge it.
There we have it. The president versus Beto last night. The president had over 10,000. Beto had what, 200? And you got to give it to the president last night. We can talk the end of the government shutdown. We will take your calls. The phone number's here, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Lots of great news here concerning the new Green Deal, the president responding. Last night, an exclusive interview with our own Laura Ingraham on the Big Fox. Remember, we're the Little Fox here in the Treasure Valley, KIDO Talk Radio. You'll hear from that. And more importantly, we would love for you to be a part of the program, and we'll take your calls. And right now, we'll start with Liberty Linda, who joins us now. First off, boy, we almost didn't get a chance to get to Phil Hardy. You are ready to go. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Good morning, Kevin. In God we trust. Bind us together. America will never be a socialistic country. Faith and family, keep and bear arms, free speech. Kevin, have we ever heard this from a president recently?
Not outside of Donald Trump.
That's what I'm talking about. You know, the State of the Union address, the president knocked it out of the ballpark, and last night we thought we were listening to our founding fathers again. You know, I don't know about you, Kevin, or others, but he had me in tears last night.
Well, you know, and one of the things, and hopefully, hopefully we can play this week. I love that song, Real American, and when Ray Amaya puts the clips of Trump in, because, and again, it was a theme song to the old Hulk Hogan of the WWE, but talking about being a real American. And remember, Glenn Beck, he wrote a book, Real America, many years ago. And that right, and that's really what the president reflects, the real America, not the socialist, not the people that hate America, not the people that want to redefine America as bad, but the people that understand that America is made of heroes and exceptionalism, and they don't apologize for it.
And he's a billionaire, and he is so down to earth. He is one of us. He understands this country, you know, like our founding fathers. I'll say it again. You know, he would rather have German shepherds than high tech. He wants to save our country money and do it the best way for our country. Have you ever heard anything like that before? I'm just absolutely amazed. And, you know, common sense, that's what we hear from our president today, and we haven't heard that in years. All we hear is this other high-tech stuff that has done nothing for our country. So I just wanted to call in and say thank goodness for our president, President Trump, and then also, Kevin, thank goodness for you, that we have you. We can call in, talk to you, and we have a voice. And so you're the best, Kevin, and you know, I'm just so thankful for the direction our country is going in and what President Trump has done for us. He's turned us around. He says, yeah, he saved our country, we're all saying, and he says, no, God saved our country. All I can say is, what a man, Kevin, and what a man you are. Thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you, Liberty Linda. God bless.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We will never become a socialist country, right, Mr. President?
And I say it for the world to hear, America will never be a socialist country. Never. Never.
You know, when did ever Obama do that, right? Did we ever have that reaction to Barack Obama?
Everywhere socialism has been, everywhere it's been implemented, it's produced poverty, misery, repression, and despair. You take a look, no matter where. Yet there are those trying to implement socialism right here in the United States. So I again say to you,
Much more coming up. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. If you missed the president's speech, you'll hear the best parts. And coming up, the president has a message for all those new green dealers. You'll hear it next on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning. Don't forget Glenn Beck in between us and Dave Ramsey, weekdays 9 to 12. And don't forget to sign up for the KIDO Talk Radio newsletter. Go to our website. Great stories put out twice a week. Find out what's happening in the Treasure Valley. KIDO Talk Radio newsletter doesn't cost you anything at our website. Time for traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work.
I'm News Channel 7's Eric Everett.
Kevin Miller here. So last night, the President of the United States made his case to the American public in El Paso, Texas. Has there ever been a president go to the wall?
we're doing now. We are a hot, hot country. Last week, they introduced a massive government takeover that would destroy our incredible economic gains. They introduced the so-called Green New Deal. It sounds like a high school term paper that got a low mark. It would shut down American energy, which I don't think the people in Texas are going to be happy with that. It would shut down a little thing called air travel. How do you take a train to Europe? You know, this crazy senator from Hawaii, they said, do you like it? Yes, I like it very much. Oh, really? How are we getting to Hawaii on a train? She didn't think about that one, but she's thinking about it. She'll figure it out.
A great point by President Trump last night in El Paso, Texas. How do you take a train to Hawaii? How do you take a train to Europe? Well, we would just won't be going there anymore because everything's going to be wonderful. Coming up, the president outlines what really happens to American life, to American industry during the new Green Deal.
They want to take away your car, reduce the value of your home, and put millions of Americans out of work, spend $100 trillion, which, by the way, there's no such thing as $100 trillion. You have to spend $100 trillion. And remember this, no other country except us is going to do it. That's a little problem, too. While the world's real polluters, like China, would get many of our companies and factories, they just move into China, move into other parts of the world. That's the way the system works. Not going to happen, folks. Don't worry. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. 100 trillion. Let's spend 100 trillion. Let's rip down every building in New York City and rebuild it environmentally slightly better. To pave the way for socialism, Democrats are calling for massive tax.
There we have it. The President of the United States, to pave the way for socialism, Democrats are calling for massive tax increases.
Cities for 20 years counting. militarization. It's because of organizations like BNHR who work with the community, who work with the most vulnerable in this community.
There we have it, Beto making his comments against the president. Your thoughts, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And it looks like a government shutdown will be avoided. Is it the right deal at the time? More on that and more coming up next. Our time is 6:30. You're listening to Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Morning, Kevin.
KIDO Talk Radio time, 6:36. Simon Owen joins us now from London here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, your home for Fox News in the Treasure Valley. Simon, how are you?
Morning, Kevin. Well, thank you.
Well, apparently there's a unique situation going on in Russia. There's an invasion.
Yes, and not your average invasion, if there is such a thing. We're talking here about an archipelago called Novaya Zemlya. It is two main islands in the extreme north of Europe. It's in the Arctic. It is remote. It is cold, but a few thousand people live there, and they have a problem with polar bears. This has been happening since December, the authorities say. The local authority is counting that since December, 52 polar bears have been spotted in just in the main settlement on the islands, a place called Belushia Guba. All sorts of footage has emerged of these animals. We've seen one apparently wandering through the hallway of an apartment building. More video shows a sizable group of a dozen or so, maybe more, scavenging at a dump. And the head of the island's local administration says that people are afraid to leave their homes. He says they're scared to take their kids to schools. He says he's lived there for 30 years, and he's never known anything quite on this scale. And it's he who calls this a massive invasion.
So what are they planning to do about it? I mean, I think in Idaho we would just go get our guns.
Well, first problem there is that in Russia, polar bears are a protected species. So it sounds like unless there is a definite threat to human life, that's not an option. So what they've done is declared a state of emergency. It seems that part of that is that experts have been brought in, perhaps from a federal level, to try and, well, their best hope is to try and scare the bears away, it sounds like. So there are things you can do, and the World Wildlife Fund runs a few of these projects in Russia, also in Alaska, actually. They call them polar bear patrols, and they sort of deploy tactics like noise machines, maybe improving or brightening the lighting near public places. Apparently that can work. Any sort of food storage containers, you can make them bear proof. And then also, I suppose, warning communities, and that's what the authorities in this archipelago have done. They have published guidance for people, a reminder of what to do if you encounter a polar bear. And it's some of it is quite daunting. You know, they say that the polar bears are active predators and can watch for their prey for several hours, hiding as they do so. The advice says stay calm so they don't tell that you're scared, and don't turn your back and run away because you probably won't escape. So there's the advice there. But the other side of this is that it is being held up as another example of the impact of climate change, because as the Arctic warms, and we have seen this before in recent years, polar bears are having to wander a bit further afield to find food, and that is leading to encounters with humans that perhaps previously wouldn't have happened.
Well, does anybody know how vicious they are? I mean, we got bears here, but I don't know if the polar bears are more vicious. In fact, we got Coca-Cola having ads with polar bears. So, do they eat people?
Yeah, they're not potentially quite like what you see on the ads. According to conservationists, they say that attacks on humans are rare, but if something goes wrong or the polar bear is spooked or whatever else, they can be incredibly dangerous. And these sort of attacks on humans are expected to increase, according to experts, as more sea ice melts and the animals spend more time ashore. So, yeah, they are definitely not to be messed with. And, I mean, you mentioned guns, and the guidance from the Russian authorities does say that if a polar bear attacks and there is a real threat to that person's health, then you can shoot them, and it actually publishes specific guidance on where is most effective to hit them. So, yes, these are, they're beautiful animals, but they are really, really dangerous.
Well, Simon, you stay away from the polar bears.
Yeah, no, I think we've got a way to go until they're wandering into London. But yes, up in Russia, not so much.
There, you never know. They might send you on assignment.
Hey, listen, that would be fun.
Simon, you have a great day. Take care.
Thanks, Kevin.
Bye-bye. There we have it. Simon Owen joining us. Remember, when you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. KIDO Talk Radio time, 641. Our two top stories, the president's speech last night at the border, calling out the socialism, joining the Stop Socialism Express that we started right here, number one. Number two, a budget deal has been reached. Many people believe it's okay. However, CNN decided to attack our very own Sean Hannity, that you can catch weeknights 3 to 6. We love Sean. Sean is very close to the president. Here's how it played out.
All around the world, this is New Day. It's Tuesday, February 12th, 6 o'clock here in New York. Breaking overnight, there is a deal to prevent another government shutdown, a deal to fund new fencing on the border, a deal between Democrats and Republicans in Congress, which is notable these days in and of itself. What's also notable is that upon getting word of the deal, the president chose not to learn the details. Instead of asking an aide, hey, what's in it? He spoke at a rally, actually telling the crowd he was choosing politics over policy. Here's what we know about the deal so far. $1.375 billion for fencing and other physical barriers along a 55-mile stretch of the Rio Grande Valley. That's not a wall, but fencing. There's also funding for more than 41,000 detention beds, and there is nearly a $2 million increase in spending for the Department of Homeland Security. Now, we do not know if the president will sign on. We do know that the co-president doesn't like it. Sean Hannity called it a garbage compromise.
So, members of the Freedom Caucus are also slamming this deal. They're the group.
You know, it's so funny. The president cannot do anything right with these people. The president wrote The Art of the Deal back in 1987, how to deal with people. And the continued government shutdown, hurting government folks, you're not going to win that one. You're not going to win when people are hurting. President makes a deal, Congress makes a deal. We'll see if the president signs it. Sean's entitled to his opinion. We love Sean. Sean is the cornerstone of our station right here at 580-5436. But it's got to be pretty bad at CNN how snarky they are. That, it's $2 billion for Department of Homeland Security. A wall is the same thing. A fence is the same thing as a wall. And they just focus in on the negative. Where was Obama, right? Where was Obama in all this? Crazy time. Last night, the president had this to say.
I'll give you another example, and I don't care whether a mayor is a Republican or a Democrat. They're full of crap when they say it hasn't made a big difference.
He's right about that, and the president continues to rail against socialism. That is one topic. Your thoughts on the end of the shutdown, the New Deal, and we'll get Sean's thoughts on that coming up. Also, at 580-5436, as you just heard Maggie talking about the terrible tragedy that happened just off Black Cat Road on West Cherry Lane in Meridian on your way to Nampa, right before Canada Road. Having driven that many times, having lived near there for my, 4 years that I lived in Meridian, it's dangerous. And we don't know what happened, but we had a big, a Tundra or a Titan and an F-150 collide. And we always try to make the Treasure Valley better. We are a values-based program here. And yesterday we were talking about the need for hands-free devices, a state law to do that. And I understand people say, well, Kevin Miller, we've got too many laws. Folks, we don't want to be California. We don't want to be Seattle. First off, our thoughts and prayers go to those people that died, to their families. We urge people to pray for them and to help the families of those victims out. Number two, these roads where there are only 2 lanes, slow and safe is better than fast and crazy, right? You know, you swerve, you're not paying attention, and a tragedy. You know, you talk about the blunt force trauma that was generated. And those trucks are probably some of the safest vehicles on the road. It always amazes me when we're driving on the 2-lane highways how fast people go. And maybe because I was born old and I am old, and maybe I'm not chronologically old, depends on who you talk to, just going fast is for knuckleheads. Going fast on the interstate, on the highway, the freeway. It's amazing to me. You know, there are parts where on the way to Oregon, 80 miles an hour, and you still have people going that fast? Imagine if your tire blows out. And I don't mean to scare you, but you just sit back and think to yourself, friends and neighbors, this is not good. This is not a good deal. And again, our thoughts and prayers go to those people that have lost loved ones because somebody went into another lane. And you take a look at the probability of that. The probability of going so fast that would happen, it's tragic. And how can these tragedies be avoided or decrease the probability? And the reason why I always use probability, a little sidebar, because Jeff the Suit and Wendy from Fred Meyer always say, I'd like to know more about you. Well, frankly, people in media always talk about themselves. And this is a groupthink program. This is a culture. This is a community. And when you think about, just going crazy and doing these things, it's nuts. It is just crazy. And going that fast is just not safe, right? Let's go to the phones. And we go to The Patriot with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Patriot.
Hello, Kevin. How are you doing? Good morning. Hey, the issue of the cell phone itself is, it's been coming around, going on and off for years. But also, from what I hear, that there's not still an investigation going on. It hasn't been identified yet what was causing the accident, unless you haven't heard anybody say anything about it yet.
And let me say, hold on, let me not confuse anyone. I'm not saying that did happen. I'm just talking about driving slower as opposed to speeding.
Well, it's just coincidental, though, that the legislature comes out with the representative comes out bringing up the cell issue after this accident, coinciding with this accident. So with that said, then, what really pisses me off, too, is the fact that we have these people driving around with dogs in their laps, and that's a distraction also. I really hate seeing that when you have these dogs literally on the door of the driver, and they're making a turn with instead of crossing over their arms comfortably, they're inching their turn slowly. That really drives me crazy because there's a distraction right there, and I'm just waiting for somebody to get into an accident with that situation, and hopefully something will be brought up. In 2011, McGee, when he was in there, and the other representatives said they didn't even hear about this issue. Was it a concern for distraction, which really talks about the naivete and the ignorance of them not to notice that or to know that people are bringing it up for a reason. So there's a lot of distraction factors out there. If we're just into the cell phones, we need to do the animals too. They need to be restrained in vehicles and not even be in the driver's seat with, I don't know if you've seen that before, but be in the driver's seat with the driver.
Patriot, I have never understood people that take their dogs, big dogs, small dogs, in vehicles and have them while they're driving. And it is not smart. They're nitwits, and they endanger themselves, everyone else, and their animal that they propose to love. Oh, isn't it cute? We've got little Peachy out the window. No, it isn't. It's irresponsible.
Yeah, absolutely on that. So, as far as restricting and going California way, it's everybody. Unfortunately, statistically, it's more to the teens and the younger generation that's doing this stuff. Yeah, we see it all the time with some adults, but unfortunately, the accidents that happen seem to involve the younger generation. But this is open to see that it doesn't happen. Again, be responsible when you're driving. And there's a consequence for everything. If you can act stupid, then stupid is as stupid does. Okay, take care.
Out. Thank you, Patriot. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. We talk about this dangerous accident. Again, going back to it, folks, this is crazy. People speeding, acting irresponsibly. And on these 2-lane roads, you got to focus. And you're right, whether it's eating a cheeseburger, whether it's eating a Whopper, whether it's your dog, whether it's your phone, we should respect everyone else enough to know that isn't right, that we're distracted doing something else while driving. Coming up, much, much more. Sean Hannity reacts to the president, and we'll take your calls. Kevin Miller on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Your home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio.
If we cut detention space, we are cutting loose dangerous criminals into our country.
All right, that's the president addressing his supporters in El Paso, Texas. By the way, on this new so-called compromise, I'm getting details. $1.3 billion. That's not even a wall, a barrier. I'm going to tell this tonight, and we will get back into this tomorrow. Any Republican that supports this garbage compromise, you will have to explain. Look at this crowd. Look at the country. Look at CBS News. Even they say 72% of the American people want the heroin to stop, the cartels to stop.
There we have it from Sean Hannity speaking not so happily about this new compromise. We'll take your calls coming up first. Back to the phones. Pete in Mountain Home. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Pete.
Kevin, good morning. I have a radical solution to distracted driving with cell phones. And I want the younger people in the audience to make sure you're sitting down, because this may send you into a state of catatonic, like fugue or something.
Sure.
When you get in the vehicle, turn off your cell phone. I know you'll be out of contact. You may actually end up, curled up on the seat in the fetal position crying, but try it. Just turn off your cell phone. And I know us old farts, we don't have much in the way of experience, but 30 and 40 years ago, people were able to spend like a whole day without a cell phone because there weren't any. And you can drive without a cell phone turned on. And those of you who have little children, if you don't want to leave them in a hot car in the summer or a cold car in the winter, put your turned off cell phone back in the baby seat with the kid. Because you might forget the kid, but I know you won't forget the cell phone.
You might forget. I love that. You might forget the kid, but you won't forget the cell phone. Great thoughts, Pete.
Well, and I know it'll be brutal being without a cell phone for, even an hour. I don't know how. I know people think they can't live that long without one, but you can do it. You're tough enough. Go for it.
Do it for the children.
Do it for the children. Yeah. If it saves one life, it's worth it.
Pete, God bless. Great thoughts. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Kev.
All right. Kevin Miller in the morning. Our time